You know how sometimes you have this fixed idea about a place, like it's always been the way it is now? Well, today we're looking at one huge place like that, the Saharo-Arabian Desert. Because, well, there's this new study out, and it's making us rethink, well, pretty much everything.
That's exactly right. For ages, the picture we've had of this massive desert between Africa and Eurasia, it's been one of a permanent barrier.
Right, just dry, arid land.
Yeah, separating the continents for millions of years, making it super tough for animals and maybe even early humans to cross, sort of like a natural wall, you know?
Okay, so the standard view is this huge dry obstacle, no easy passage. But this new research we're diving into, it suggests that's not the whole picture.
Not even close. This study, it's really fascinating, just came out in Nature, and it basically flips that old idea completely.
Just puts it. How so?
Well, the evidence shows that this area, it wasn't always this impassable wasteland. Actually, over the last 8 million years, it repeatedly turned into, get this, a green corridor.
A green corridor? You mean like with plants and water?
Exactly. Rivers, lakes, the whole thing. Right there in the middle of what's now desert.
Wow. Okay, that's hard to picture. 8 million years is such a vast time scale.
Yeah.
What does that do to our understanding of, how things moved around back then?
Oh, the implications are huge, especially when you think about animal migrations and, crucially, early human dispersals between Africa and Eurasia.
Right.
If this area was green and welcoming, even periodically, it wasn't a barrier at all. It was a pathway, a vital route. Professor Michael Petralia calls it a key crossroads for life moving across continents.
Key crossroads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a totally different way to think about it. Not a wall, but a junction.
Precisely.
And the study had support from folks in Saudi Arabia, the Heritage Commission, Ministry of Culture. So they must have had some good local insights. What kind of proof did they actually find? What's the evidence?
Well, that's what makes it so convincing. They pulled together different kinds of evidence. A really big one is fossils.
Fossils, okay.
Yeah, they found remains of animals that absolutely need water. We're talking crocodiles.
Crocodiles, serious.
Seriously. And ancient horse types, equids, hippos, well, hippopotamids, even relatives of elephants, the proboscideans, found right in the middle of today's desert.
Okay, finding hippo bones in the desert, that definitely doesn't fit the current picture.
Not at all.
So just finding those animals there is the pretty strong proof that there must have been rivers, lakes, enough water to support them.
Exactly that. These creatures just couldn't live in the kind of arid place it is now. Their bones are like direct snapshots of a wetter past. And Professor Petralia, he points out this likely opened up routes for all sorts of mammals moving between the continents. Arabia wasn't a barrier, it was this hub for what he calls these continental-scale biogeographic exchanges.
A hub for exchange. Fascinating. So you're saying the desert was once teeming with life you'd normally find near water.
It's a pretty stark image, isn't it? Hippos hanging out where there's now just sand really shows how much things can change.
Okay, so the animal fossils paint a picture of water. Was there anything else, other kinds of evidence backing this up?
Oh, definitely. Another really important line of evidence comes from studying something called speleothems.
Speleothems. Right, those are cave formations like stalactites.
Exactly. Stalactites, stalagmites, they form drip by drip in caves, but only when there's water seeping through. So they're like these natural archives of past climate.
Ah, I see. Like tree rings, but for cave climates.
Sort of, yeah. Dr. Monika Markowska, she led this part of the work, along with Dr. Hubert von Hoff. They analyzed these formations in caves right there in Arabia.
So they could read the history of rainfall from these cave formations, going way back.
That's the idea. By looking at their growth layers and chemistry, they could pinpoint periods when conditions were much wetter.
And what did they find? Did it match the fossil evidence?
It did. Their analysis showed lots of distinct wet periods, humid phases in Arabia over the last 8 million years.
Wow, not just one fluke wet spell.
Nope. Multiple episodes. It gives really strong independent support for these recurring green corridors we're talking about. It wasn't just a one-off.
That's amazing. Multiple green phases over millions of years. Did they see any kind of pattern? Did these wet periods change over time?
Yes, and this is where it gets even more interesting. Dr. Markowska's team found that while, yes, there were many humid periods, the amount of rain during those periods actually seemed to decrease over time, and it became more variable, less reliable.
Oh, okay. So the green phases weren't all the same. They got weaker.
Kind of, yeah. And they linked this trend to bigger global climate shifts, specifically a weakening of the monsoon systems that used to bring rain further into Arabia.
The monsoons changed.
Yeah, and also the growth of the big ice sheets up in the northern hemisphere during the Pleistocene,
Right.
the Ice Ages.
The ice ages. How do they affect Arabia?
Well, massive ice sheets change global wind patterns and ocean currents. That, in turn, seems to have affected how far the monsoons reached, making the rainfall in Arabia less consistent.
So it's all connected. Global cooling, shifting monsoons, and the green phases in Arabia becoming less intense over time. That paints a much more dynamic picture than just desert.
Exactly. It's dynamic, it's complex, and it really changes how we should view Arabia's role in that whole Africa-Eurasia story.
How so?
Well, Dr. Faisal Al-Jibran, he's the lead Saudi archaeologist on this. He pointed out that Arabia often gets, overlooked in these discussions about migrations between the continents. It's seen as kind of marginal.
Right. You tend to think more about maybe the Sinai Peninsula or routes further north.
Exactly. But this study really puts Arabia center stage. It wasn't just a passive bystander or a dead end. It was this crucial stepping stone.
A land bridge that sometimes was green and passable and sometimes wasn't.
Precisely. Its role was active, not passive. It was a key player in the story of mammal migrations and very possibly hominin migrations, too.
Because those green corridors wouldn't just let things pass through. They could actually live there for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. They would have provided water, food, habitats. Everything needed to support populations, not just let them walk across quickly.
Okay, let's just quickly recap the main points then. So, first big thing. The Saharo-Arabian Desert wasn't always the barrier we thought it was.
Correct. Much more dynamic.
Second, we have solid proof. Fossils of water-loving animals deep inland and the Speleothem records from caves, both showing repeated wet green periods.
Yep, multiple lines of evidence pointing the same way.
And third, this basically rewrites Arabia's role in history. It was a central, fluctuating corridor for life moving between Africa and Eurasia.
That sums it up perfectly. This study, the one in Nature from April 9th, 2025, with Markaska and Von Hoff leading, it really challenges old assumptions, opens up so many new questions.
Wow, so the big aha moment is just realizing this vast desert was once a gateway, a green pathway that opened and closed over millions of years.
It totally reframes the connection between these continents.
It really does. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Well, it leaves you thinking, how exactly did these green phases affect when and where early humans might have moved out of Africa? Did they follow these green corridors?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This region we've often ignored might hold some really deep secrets about our own origins.
Yeah. What else could be buried under all that sand? What other clues about these ancient journeys are just waiting to be found?
Makes you think about how landscapes we see as barren today could have been absolutely central to life's story on Earth. A lot left to discover, I suspect.